Three, two, one. Welcome everyone to another great episode of Breaking Bread with Corey. Thank you so much for joining me today. This is two of two shows today. I had just sitting with another group of amazing ambassadors and amazing winemakers. So as I get prepared, I'm going to go ahead and set up my phone here, my camera. I'm going to set that up. How's everybody doing today? Hope everybody's doing well. Hello. Hello, everybody. Hey. Awesome. Thank you for joining. I really appreciate that. Yeah, thanks. Well, welcome, everyone. Welcome to Breaking Bread with Corey. If you are joining us live, go ahead and hit that airplane button right on the very corner. Go ahead and invite 5, 10, whatever you want to invite of your friends. The first 5 people on your friends list, go ahead and hit that airplane button, bring them along, because we have quite a show for you today. And as always, thank you all for your time and your support. I really appreciate you joining and supporting Breaking Bread with Corey. I really appreciate that. Don't forget, Friday, May 28th, we are doing a summer bash. The summer bash is 3.5 hours worth of ambassadors. The lineup will be released on May 24th during our shows on May 24th, so stay tuned for that. But we have quite a bit. The next 2 weeks, we have an amazing group of ambassadors, so I hope you could stay with us and join us during those shows. And what a show do we have to share with you today. So excited to bring my next guest on. Let me see if I can go ahead and bring her on. Let's see if I can do it again. Let me see here. Trying to make a connection here. Let's see. Go live. What's going on here? Just having a little trouble. Hello guys, how you doing? Thank you for joining. Go ahead and don't forget, go ahead and invite 5 of your friends. Go ahead and hit that airplane button on the right hand side. Go ahead and bring some more friends with you today. Bring 5, 10. Go ahead and invite the first 5 or 10 people on your friends list. I'm going to see. What is going on? Let's see here. Okay, let's see. How's everybody doing today? What is everybody drinking? Anybody drinking anything? Happy Thursday. We had an amazing lineup for you today, and then we're going to have an amazing lineup for you tomorrow as well. And as I was announcing, don't forget, Friday, May 28th, we are celebrating the Summer Bash, Corey Summer Bash, with 3.5 hours worth of ambassadors, a lot of fun, some surprise guests. Hey, there you are. All right. I'm going to go ahead and bring you on. There we are. Through the magic of the power. You're having Cabernet. All right. Awesome.
I've never done this before. Hold on.
No worries. No worries.
I was trying to join on my iPad, but I wasn't prepared for it to be IG, so I apologize that it's my bad with not knowing technology.
Yeah, for some reason, like it doesn't, I don't understand why it doesn't grab on like laptops or iPads and things like that. So you have to do it from your phone.
Okay, well, if I make anyone dizzy, I apologize while I try to figure this out.
You're good. You're good. How's everybody doing out there? Thank you all for joining me. Hello, Kari. Hi, everybody. Mario, everybody out there, thank you for joining. Don't forget, if you're joining in, go ahead and invite the first 5 on your friends. Let's go ahead and hit that airplane button on the right-hand side, the bottom right. If you want to invite some 5, 10, whatever. This is a great time. Happy Thursday, everyone. I have a very special guest. I've been so excited about this. I know the email was pretty hilarious, and you're like, I don't even know what day it is. I've been so busy. So thank you for taking the time to join us. I really appreciate it. Let's go ahead and kick it off. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
All right, that sounds great. No, I'm Cecilia Enriquez, Enriquez Estate Wines. I am equally excited to be here with you. Like I said, this is my first time doing this like Instagram live thing, so thank you for introducing me to something new.
Absolutely.
And yeah, I'm sorry that I'm all over the place all the time, but I'm such a small producer, and I juggle a lot of different things, and apparently I misjudge the days all the time. So at least I misjudged it in a right way, and I got you the wine a lot earlier than needed.
Yeah. That was great. I was like, you're good. You're good. That is awesome. I love the story. I love your story. I love the backbone of your wine. I'm having the Brisa right now. Absolutely gorgeous. A combination of Chardonnay, Sauvignon Blanc, and Muscat, all rolled into one. And I'm actually pairing it with something fun. I usually try to do, talk about out of the box things that you like to do yourself, Cecilia. I'm pairing them with the honey wheat pretzels from Trader Joe's, and you got it, downright pub cheese right here in this sharp cheddar. You gotta love the pretzels and the pub cheese, the saltiness and the creaminess, the fattiness of the cheese, but it also goes great combo with this wine. Now, I gotta tell you, one of the things that really, like, I mean, my glasses are their transition, and so I use them because I got these glasses because my kiddo, he broke my nice ones, so I decided I was going to get a nice sunglass frame.
I like them.
That was going to be an all-around thank you. But one thing that my eyes did not perceive me on, and is the beautiful color of this wine, and it looks like glass hitting your glass. I mean, sunny, bright, crisp, clean, and instead of classy, glassy. It was like the first thing that I thought of, especially with the saltiness of the pretzels, was getting up when I used to surf, dawn patrol, and used to get out watching the sunrise as the sets were starting to roll in, and you see glassy waves. This is a glassy wave in my glass.
Oh, thank you.
Absolutely delicious, beautiful, just dynamic. I like I said, I love the story. So tell the story about how you got involved, how your dad and your mom, you guys took that trip to Napa, and how you fell in love with it. So tell us the story.
Well, it's actually pretty hilarious because it really was a comedy of errors. And for my parents who like to be they're big planners. I mean, if they're going to do something, they're planning everything out so that they, have control over the situation. And my dad doesn't get time off very often. My dad's a physician. He's a workaholic. He lives and breathes medicine. And if you ever need an internist, I know that he'd be happy to offer a second opinion on anybody. I mean, I text him questions all the time for my friends who are like, hey, what's going on here? So, anytime we do plan a family trip, it has to be pretty much all well dialed in, prior to leaving. And so my brother happened to choose a small school in Lake Tahoe. I had just graduated college. It was 2009. And it was the worst possible time to graduate. I don't know if anybody remembers, but the economy tanked. And everyone I interviewed with, I'd gone to business school, so I was trying to get a corporate job. Everyone I interviewed with said, just kidding, we're not hiring anyone this year. And so I ended up moving back home with my parents and got a job with the local Wells Fargo branch, which was not at all what I wanted to do, but I was thankful I had a job and I was living at home and could save up some money and kind of take my time finding the right position for me. When I heard my parents were going to go visit my brother, it was supposed to be a ski trip initially, and they were super excited to hit the West Coast for some snow. And I, of course, said, you can't leave me at home. So I tagged along to this family trip. And we show up, we drive to Incline where my brother was, and there was no snow. So we're looking around, we're like, well, shoot, how are we going to do the skiing? So my brother also happened to be super sick. So my parents are like, great. My mom's a germaphobe. She's like, I did not come all this way to sit in a hotel room and get sick by your brother. So they're like, trying to brainstorm on what to do. And they start looking at where they could drive to check out, the surrounding area. We had never been to the West Coast as a family. And my dad sees that San Francisco is a short road trip, and he sees that Napa Valley is on the way. And he loves wine. I think being a doctor, the science and chemistry behind wine. And actually my mom, her grandfather owned a bunch of land in Mexico where he grew a lot of ag products. So a lot of the fruits and veggies back in that day were actually imported to the U.S. for my family's property. So I think my dad's always kind of had that romance of getting back into ag and getting back to our roots. And, all of that combined. Me, on the other hand, my exposure to wine at that point had been box wine and whatever was cheap at the store, and I didn't like any of it. So I just assumed all wine tasted like that, and I kind of just jumped over it. I was actually more, you're going to be I'm embarrassed to say this, but a rum and Coke girl. So I didn't bother with wine. And when my parents suggested going through Napa Valley, I just was like, well, I've heard beautiful things. I thought Napa Valley was the only wine region in California. And I really couldn't have told you the difference between red and white wine. So my dad, instead of looking for a place to go to and stay at in Napa, he just went to the front desk of the hotel, and they gave us an address, and he typed it into the GPS, and we ended up here in Sonoma County in Santa Rosa. So perfect for us because my dad loves Pinot and Zin. And I think looking back on it, had we ended up in Napa, we probably wouldn't be in the wine industry because Sonoma County is so welcoming. And I was expecting to like maybe one or two of the wines that we were going to, the day that we went wine tasting. And after the first winery that we went to, I just looked at my dad and I said, whatever you're buying at home is the wrong stuff. Like, you need to stock up your cellar with wine from out here. They definitely know what they're talking about and what they're doing. And I don't know why it's different, but it's just delicious. So he and I kind of discovered that I had a palate for good quality wine. I skipped all the in-between steps and went right to the good stuff. And the last place we went to happened to be a small place like myself. I produce about 700 cases currently, so still under 1,000. And my dad and the owner ended up hitting it off. And he was pretty much the one that convinced my dad to purchase a vineyard, or at least look at a vineyard to see if he would retire out to beautiful wine country. And so the next morning on our way south to San Francisco, we stop in and check out this property that's in Petaluma. And I see how excited my dad was getting. My mom refused to get out of the car. She stayed in the car and she was like, nope, I don't want anything to do with wine. You guys are crazy. Hurry up. Let's get to San Francisco. Um, but my dad looked like a little kid in a candy store, and I just ended up, you know, suggesting jokingly that he should purchase the vineyard, and how hard could it be to start our own winery, and that I would quit my job, move out here, and partner up with him. And I mean, I was 21 at the time. I had I was 6 months out of college, so I didn't like wine until the day before. So I ended up, you know, not thinking anything was going to happen. But my dad, I think, was super excited about the idea that somebody else in the family had mentioned that we should get into the wine industry. That he surprised me. He looked around, and I thought he was going to say, go get a job in the wine industry. But he looked at me and said, all right, if you're serious about this, write up a business plan when we get home. And I still thought we were going to get to San Francisco and forget about it. You know how you go on vacations and you're like, this is cute,
Yeah.
this is great, like beautiful, like let's buy something, let's come visit more often. But then you have,
Right.
you know, but life gets in the way, or you go visit a different area or whatever. Or, you know, if you have kids, if they have kids, you end up going more to visit family. Well, the guy showing us the property suggested that while we were still in Sonoma County, that we'd go try the wines produced off the property. It was an existing vineyard. So my dad said that was a good idea. If the wines were good, then the grapes would be good. It was probably very difficult to make good wine off of bad grapes. And so
Right.
this guy's tasting room was back in Healdsburg, in the opposite direction of San Francisco. So we ended up deciding we were going to hit another winery before leaving Sonoma County. And he didn't tell my mom. So my mom, about 10, 15 minutes into the drive, realized we were going in the wrong direction. And she just starts yelling at my dad. Like, I don't know how everybody's relationships are, but my dad is more of the spontaneous one. My mom is more of the, like, let's rein it back in. Let's be more reasonable and logical
Yeah.
about this. But he
Love
didn't
it.
listen. We get to the tasting room. We try the wines. We fell in love with the wines. We never made it to San Francisco on that trip. We stayed in Sonoma County the entire time. We ended up definitely making it over to the Napa side. We looked at a bunch of other properties, went wine tasting a bunch more until we had to drive back to Reno to fly back home. And he didn't forget. My dad had me write up a business plan. It was terrible. I had no idea what I was doing. And it took a year and a half, but at the beginning of 2011, he came home and said, all right, you're moving to California. And I said, no, I'm not. I don't know anybody out there. I don't know anything about California or grapes or wine. You should probably hire someone that knows what they're doing so that you can be successful in the industry. And my dad said, no, it was too late, that I had agreed to partnering with him. And I was the only one in the family that was available to move out there and, you know, get it off the ground and oversee the day-to-day operations. So I now tell everybody that my dad shipped me out at 23 so that I could learn how to farm and make wine. And I'm actually celebrating my 10th year anniversary, so I can't believe that I've been out here for 10 years.
Yes.
Thank you.
Awesome. I love it.
Thank you. Yeah, so I think all of that has kind of, you know, really shaped me as a winemaker, as far as thinking outside the box and, you know, realizing that it's okay to fail. I mean, I knew that I couldn't fail in the wine industry just because I didn't want to bankrupt my dad. I mean, when he dropped me off at the airport, because my parents are still back east. My dad has not retired yet. So, and they come maybe once a year to visit, which I'm like, come on, Dad, like you need to start coming and taking advantage of what you have.
Absolutely.
But yeah, he dropped me off at the airport and he's like, whatever you do, don't bankrupt me. Money's not unlimited. So every decision along the way, I'm like, great. I know that we're self-financed. We were the poor kids on the block, and I didn't want to end up, you know, bankrupting my dad. So I ended up kind of every decision overthinking it, probably, of like, okay, is this a smart decision? Is this not?
Right.
But I was pretty fortunate that the property we started with was it broke even. So we were able to really kind of start out small and be able to grow organically, and I could play around with small lots and really see what worked and what didn't work. And fortunately, knock on wood, so far everything has worked. I'm still waiting for that one off wine that people are like, you totally missed the mark on this and you should not do that ever again. But I do rely heavily on my palate. I mean, I believe that it all starts in the vineyard, and everything that you do in the vineyard really translates to the quality of the grapes, to then translates to the quality of the wine. So I do look at the numbers right when I'm about to harvest, but for the most part, I'm looking for the flavors that I want in the grapes to decide when to harvest. And I haven't quite played around with natives, you know, native ferments yet. I'm still pretty traditional on the back end of the winemaking. I did find a yeast that is a hybrid yeast that I'm pretty excited about. So I tend to to play around a little bit, but more so have found that I like unique varietals and have wanted to share the unique varietals with everybody. So if I can get you outside your comfort zone when it comes to the wine that I'm making, I feel like I've done my part in the wine industry.
Absolutely. I mean, again, taking on something that you really didn't have any like formal education on, and you just went and jumped into it. And your dad basically threw you in the fire.
Pretty
That
much.
is great. I love it. That's your typical dad. I think about that with my son. I'm like, am I just gonna throw my son into the fire? My wife is like, yeah, when he gets old enough, you're just gonna be the one that says, bye, here you go. But I love that story. It's real, it's raw, and it really represents what again goes into the making of this bottle. You could definitely tell the love, the passion, the overthinking. You want to get it right. I mean, when you see like I hate to use the word perfection, but when you see that like coming when it's so clean and it's so clear, the way it presents itself, it's like I was saying, the minute I saw this when I was pouring it, it was almost like I was watching something in ultra high def in slow motion. When I was pouring it, I was like, this is unreal. And when I was just like looking at it, and I'm like, the color, and I'm outside, and it's kind of a moderate day with high clouds, so it's not really like really sunny, super bright, but you can see the clarity and the color in this and what it's doing as far as the reflection as I'm bringing the bowl around, and it's just clean. It like I said, the first thing I thought of was Dawn Patrol surfing,
Yeah.
watching the waves look glassy. So it's awesome. So I don't think, uh, I don't think you'd have any worry anytime soon about not hitting the mark.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. But this one was interesting because so I sent you the 2015 Brisa, right? So
Mhm.
so this was actually my first vintage the off the property, the first vintage that I sourced the white grapes from. And Brisa, for those who don't know, means breeze in Spanish. So I wanted to bring out some of my heritage of, being Mexican, and the property in Petaluma was very windy. And it's funny that you're describing it that way because, it kind of does represent also the fact that it's a really clean, crisp white wine. So kind of all
Mhm.
of those three things are tied together. And in Petaluma, when I got to our property, I knew what Pinot Noir was. I learned about Tempranillo, but we also had 5 rows of white grapes. We had some Muscat and Sauv Blanc, and then I found out that a neighbor had some Chardonnay that he didn't want. So it actually started out as a true field blend where when we would harvest the white grapes, we just throw all the white grapes together and process them together. So they were co-harvested, co-fermented. And it really was a different blend every year, depending what Mother Nature would give us, what we would sell, and what we would trade with our neighbor. And when we sold that property, because I saw the writing on the wall that people don't go to Petaluma to wine taste, unfortunately, and everyone is missing out because Petaluma is a great community. I mean, wine, beer, spirits, great restaurants. I mean, great outdoor activities. Like whatever you're looking for, Petaluma has to offer. So I'm a huge proponent. And it was very bittersweet for me because I especially love the growing climate and the terroir that the Petaluma Gap, portrays. But we sold that property in 2015 to purchase where we are now in Russian River Valley. So we're in the heart of Russian River Valley on East Side Road. And unfortunately, the new owner ended up grafting over all the white grapes from our original property to more Pinot Noir because that's what sells. So I found 2 different growers to work with locally here that are neighbors. And yep, so the Pinot Noir comes from the Petaluma Gap, from our first property. When we were down in Petaluma Gap, everything was grown, produced, and bottled on site. And so when I saw these white grapes, I ended up just harvesting them together, processing them together, and tried to blend. And I was like, hopefully it works. If it doesn't work, I'll try something else the next year, because I didn't think it was enough to make 3 separate white wines. And when we moved and I was forced to source the white grapes, I found 2 different growers because Muscat is kind of challenging to find. Um, and I insisted on having them harvested the same day, which both growers thought I was crazy. But it's what kind of makes this blend. They all ripen at different times. They all add a different dimension to this white wine. You definitely more of the tropical fruit flavors from the Sauvignon Blanc, and then you definitely get the perceived sweetness from the Muscat. But I like really clean, crisp white wine, so I take my fermentations completely dry. And so I actually ended up having to drop off previous vintages of the Brisa to both growers so that they could try it and understand what I was trying to achieve by insisting on having them harvested the same day. So no longer a field blend because I had to weigh them and, you know, pay for the grapes, and they all cost a different price per ton. But as soon as they hit the winery, I was processing them together and fermenting them together. So technically I could figure out the percentages of what you're drinking right now, but I like to pretend that I'm still back in Petaluma and don't have field blends, you know, in a way.
Right.
So I'm glad that you picked up on all that with the Brisa, and it's definitely an easy to drink white. So it's perfect for those super hot summer days.
Absolutely. It's so nice. It's so easygoing. But as you wrote in your field notes with the wine, how it definitely will go with spicy dishes, an array of, you know, different types of foods. I could dig this all day with Thai food. This is a monster with Thai food,
yes.
Indian food, anything that has spices. If I had my hoster of Tapatio right next to me, and I had my pizza, I would throw the Tapatio on top of the pizza, and this bottle, I would grab this bottle right here.
Yes.
This is it. It's so money. I love it, and you could drink it by itself, and I mean, I'm dipping into the honey pretzels, but I don't want to over crunch while you're talking. But I mean, it is so good just by itself. But as you said, you can taste the sweetness and all the tropical fruits that you get from all three grapes. And what I read too is it's all done 100% still, correct?
Correct.
So that makes it extra clean.
Yeah.
When you don't have any oak. You know, a lot of times when you try to have a certain representation of showing the grapes, if you add oak, a lot of times you kind of lose that. It kind of gets hidden up.
Right.
This just showcases all three grapes so well. Like, I mean, it's another one of what I would call a novel. You're constantly digging for the character, the plot, the story as you're drinking it, because it's constantly evolving with all the mixture of all three grapes going with each other. They're kind of one's like singing the harmony, the other one's singing the backup, the other one's singing the bridge. It's like they're all coming in and they're all playing their different notes when you're drinking it. So well done. I love it. I love it.
Thank you.
I just want to like correct it.
This is the one that we call the patio pounder because it goes down so easy, and it really is. I mean, it's so nice on its own, but it also holds up so well with a bunch of different food. And I feel like we could totally eat and together because I mean you're naming all my favorites. You know, Thai food, Indian food. I don't use tapatio on my pizza. I use guacamaya because it's like where my family's from. And it's hard, but it's hard to find guacamaya. So you know, but tapatio works too, or Valentina works just as well. For anybody who's looking for hot sauce recommendations.
Hot sauce. Absolutely. And you know, the one thing that you said is it's a great patio pounder, but the one thing that is really interesting about it too is the volume. It's 14.5.
Yeah. So
it's got a lot of weight, a lot of body to it. So if you're talking about, you could do this with you could do it as just on its own. You could do it with nice aperitifs, heavier aperitifs. If you want something fattier, saltier, this is going to hold up to it. But also bigger dishes because the volume, it's actually not going to fade as you start putting those dishes together. It's just going to just blend it and enhance. I love this. I love that.
Thank you. Thanks. I'm glad you're enjoying it.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's great. And I love that, and I can't wait to pop this open. And I was like, I'd be a total alcoholic if I drank both of these at the same time. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna do the Brisa first, and then especially because it's warm outside. But as soon as I saw when I opened it up, it was perfect for the timing. Let's talk about this 2013 Noir. This thing just looks delicious. One of the first things I always do, I'm like a kid in a candy store. First thing I do is go like this. All right, what's the color like? And I love the color. I love the vibrancy to it. So tell us about your Pinot.
Well, I mean, I'm more curious to see what your response was to the fact that I sent you a 2013 Pinot.
I know. I was like, okay, this thing's gonna have some meat. I'm gonna have to like let it sit a little bit, but I'm excited to try it. So, but give me your notes. Give me your interpretation
Oh
on this
man.
thing.
Well, so I mean, the Petaluma Gap to me is one of my favorites. I mean, I really do. I don't know if it's house palate because that's where I started. Maybe I'm a little biased because that's what was my introduction to wine. But I'm definitely the colder climate, the better when it comes to my Pinots. I think it just has a really good, more like deeper, concentrated flavor profile than some of your other Pinots that you'll find. Just to give everybody an idea, like right now where we're located in the heart of Russian River Valley, we harvest our estate property end of August, beginning of September, Labor Day weekend, versus Petaluma Gap, which was mid-October. It's now more like beginning of October, end of September because it's been so hot. But that just allows longer time on the vine to really develop more deeper, more concentrated like flavors. So more of the darker berry flavors, more of the earth tones, more Burgundian in a sense. I use about 20 to 30% new French oak on it, so I still keep it kind of on the lower end. And I will age it honestly anywhere from 10 months to a couple years, depending on what the wine's tasting like. So it's just a matter of what I'm in the mood for that particular moment, and kind of go with my gut feeling when it comes to everything, every step of the winemaking process from grape to bottle. 2013 was probably the most normal year we've had in the last 10 years that I've been out here. Everything pretty much went smoothly and accordingly. And so I think it was just a really good representation of what our property down in Petaluma was really capable of, or what the Petaluma Gap is really capable of. So we had adobe clay, which retained water really well, so we rarely ever needed to use water and irrigate. The wind and the fog would come in almost every day around 3, 4 o'clock in the afternoon. So, and the fog sometimes wouldn't burn off anywhere from 11 to 1 p.m. the next day. So the sun exposure was a lot shorter than the Russian River Valley. Last year in the Russian River Valley at our home, we had a 112-degree day, which is really hot. And we don't have
Yeah.
AC, so I'm like panicking this year because we're already hot this year, and I'm like, we need to get AC in the house somehow because I'm not going to survive this year if we don't. But Petaluma, we would freeze. Petaluma, we'd have people over and we'd try to barbecue, and like we'd be huddled in our house by 5 p.m. because it was so cold with the fog and the wind. So I would complain personally about the weather of Petaluma, but the wine just makes the climate for the wine just makes fantastic Pinots and Syrahs and Chards. So I'm a huge fan of it. If you like more of the darker, deeper reds, I think you'll prefer the Petaluma Gap. You'll prefer my Pinots over the Russian River Valley. That's not to say that Russian River Valley doesn't make fantastic Pinots. They're just a little bit more on the red berry flavored, more juicier kind of Pinots than the one in down in Petaluma. But yeah, pretty straightforward Pinot. I mean, I love it. It's more my palate. So hopefully you enjoy it. And this one's probably the one that has the most fruit in it. Everything else is a little bit more earthy, vintage-wise. And most of my wines, because I'm so small, are very good snapshots of that year of that property. I kind of call it a yearbook photo, where it's just I'm very minimally invasive when it comes to my winemaking. So it's literally what that property and what Mother Nature gave us that year. So
Right. No, and again, the other thing that I got to concentrate on is the body. This is 14.9, almost. Yeah, this is big. So again, I mean, even if you talk Burgundy, Burgundian style Pinot Noir, this is still gonna fit more on the heavier side too because of the body, the weight of that.
right.
So you're definitely gonna look at heavier dishes. This thing is. I'm excited to drink this because I know it's going to drink well just on its own, and it's going to show its friskiness right away. I think it's gonna be just big bad right off the bat, but it's also going to be a novel where as I start to pair it with the dish, it is just really going to enhance itself and enhance that dish that I'm pairing with it. I love everything that you're talking about, from Petaluma to Sonoma. And so Now you're in Sonoma. What made you go to that particular area? What was, I know you were talking about how Sonoma was so welcoming, that you felt welcome and very homey there. What is it about Sonoma that just hits it for you?
I think it's just true to agriculture. I mean, it's true to what we are. It's a farming community, and we're a farming industry. And it's, I'll go wine tasting, and I love the beautiful facilities that people have invested millions of dollars in. But when you're thinking about wine, I mean, you're checking vineyards, you're in the vineyard, you're in boots, you're getting covered in dirt, you're covering up from the sun and, putting a ton of sunscreen on, or you should be, otherwise skin cancer is bad. But I have dirt under my nails. I mean, that's why I now get them done, which they don't last when I'm at the winery, because of course all of the proxy and citric acid tear all of the color off my nails. But I mean, like, you're going through, and it's hard to go into the vineyard, and if you see a sucker, it's hard not to do something about it. It's hard not to see something and not do something about it right in the moment. So as much as these beautiful tasting rooms I come back home and I'm like, oh, one day I'm going to have that. I'm like, no, I'm not. I mean, I'm going to definitely have a presentable facility for people to come and taste and enjoy it, and be clean and not have to get their nice shoes dirty. But it still is ag. I mean, there are days where I'm out in the vineyard or I'm out at the winery and I'm super dirty and I don't have time to change before I do a tasting, or before, I end up doing a pouring at a local hotel or a restaurant or a wine dinner or whatever. So it's definitely not, it's just about bringing community together. I mean, if you know wine, if you don't know wine, all you really need to know is whether you like it or you don't. And there's plenty of wine out there for everybody that will fit your palate. And it's about just bringing people together, having good food, good wine, good community around you. So, I mean, that's kind of what I try to represent in the wines, and hopefully that showcases in the bottles of wine. And, I'm going out there and checking the vineyards on a regular basis, and I'm coming back and getting super excited for harvest, because during the year, sometimes the mundane details of the back end stuff is kind of boring. But then you get to harvest and you're like, this is why I'm doing it. This is even as chaotic and as stressful as it is. It's kind of the excitement of being under pressure and seeing how all of the decisions that you made up to harvest are really impacting the quality of the grapes and what the finished product will be.
That's just awesome. I love it. I love it. And what varietals do you have right now? Is it that you have on hand, or are you working with right now?
So I'm currently just taking Pinot from our property. So I have Russian River Pinot, Russian River Pinot Noir Rosé. I still make a Tempranillo Rosé, Tempranillo. I've got Tannat, Cab Franc. I did make a Syrah a couple years. A dry muscat, which I'm super excited for, because the dry muscat is exactly how the grapes taste, which is very unique for wine. I have a very hard time going into the vineyard and not eating a bunch of clusters. Actually, funny story, I took my parents to go with me last time they came out here to go check the muscat. And I'm sitting there eating. I hadn't eaten, so I was eating a bunch of grapes. And my mom yelled at me. She's like, no, you're eating our supply. Like, you can't do that. So, watching her, having her see how many berries you sample each time, every week. It seems like a lot of berries in a bag, but in reality, it's not even making a dent when you come in and bring all the grapes. So it's kind of funny. She was all appalled that I was eating our supply and multiple times. Oh,
yeah.
Are you there? Am I there?
Yeah, you're there. You kind of went out a little bit, but now you're back.
Okay.
So what is your vision for, like, now? I mean, as far as the future, I mean, I know we just came out of one crazy year with this pandemic, and things are slowly but surely opening up little by little. What is your vision now with that?
Well, that's really interesting, because I feel like I've had a really hard time having a vision in general, just because the last 10 years, I've actually had to pivot my business almost every 2 years. Down in Petaluma, thinking that being naive, coming from the East Coast, thinking that all of Sonoma County was a wine destination, and it's not. People tend to gravitate really towards Sonoma proper or Healdsburg, which is great, because Russian River Valley, Dry Creek Valley are probably the two most known AVAs out here.
Right.
So people tend to gravitate towards that because that's what they hear and have access to. because people didn't know me and I was so small, I ended up creating a wine club where I do in-home tastings. So prior to, moving to Russian River Valley, I was traveling a bunch doing private events all throughout the US. And then we sold the Petaluma property, moved to Russian River Valley, and we were rocking and rolling. I mean, we had so many tastings coming all the time, and wine tour drivers that I had created relationships with over the years were super excited to finally be on the path of a wine tasting event, tour day. And so I was rocking and rolling, but then the 17 came and there was floods and then there was fires, and people were scared to come out here because they thought all of Sonoma County and Napa Valley were gone, but that's not how it works. Fires are actually, they only hit a very small amount. I mean, Sonoma County, I believe, is 1 million acres. So it's a very large county, and it took a very distinct path. And, if you're not directly affected by it, the first week we kind of stop and help each other out and make sure that everybody we know is safe and sound. But if we're not directly affected, we're still operating as normal. And so, I took to the road again. I focused heavily on doing in-home tastings, and then people were starting to come back, and then fires hit again. And then, then the pandemic hit. So virtual is kind of the thing, but everything's starting to happen again. I mean, we've got a 2-bedroom, 1-bath cottage on our property, and that's booked solid for the next 3 months. We're rocking and rolling with tastings at the property. I'm still doing a bunch of virtual events, and I've now got events on the road. So we're going to start picking up our travel, and we're fully vaccinated, which is super nice. And a lot of our clients are now fully vaccinated, so we're able to kind of return somewhat back to normal.
Did you have a side effect at all?
I did. I actually was one of the few that was out for a day and a half after the second one. I was very sick, super nauseous, body chills, like body aches. I have not felt like that sick in a very long time. And we were fortunate that we were back east when I got them. So my dad came home and was like, see, if you had gotten COVID, you would have been one of those super sick ones. Luckily I didn't get it. And luckily I was able to get the vaccine pretty early on so that I could go back to somewhat normal life.
Yeah, I had that same thing happen. My wife she had soreness in her arm. And then when it came to me, I was like, I was out. Seriously, I was just so bad. And it was so strange because I woke up the day after and we decided we were going to go for our family walk that we usually do in the mornings. And I was like, okay, I'll do it. And if I need to cut out and do a shorter route, then I'll go ahead and do that. And I ended up cutting it a little bit short, and I came home and I was just sitting on my steps. And as soon as I sat down, it was like a flood of everything just hit me all at once. I got hit and I had the chills. I had a fever. I was just, I was like, I'm going to die.
That's how I felt too. And my husband, who makes wine too, he's got his own winery, so it's kind of funny. He was out shoveling snow. I was like, this is not fair. I'm over here dying from the vaccine and you're outside shoveling snow and acting like normal. Yeah, it was not fair. I think the only reason I didn't get COVID is because of my alcohol consumption. I mean, I am so thankful that I don't have neighbors because our recycling bin was embarrassing this last year. I mean, I don't even understand how we went through as much, wine as we did, but it was good because we acquired quite the personal cellar, and it was a good excuse to start making a dent in all this wine we had acquired over the years. So it was pretty fun.
Yep. I know how it is. It's funny when you'd go over, the recycling, the little recycling crates that people have, because it's not a trash can for us. It's like a little crate that they have right next to the trash can. And you would see bottles. I mean, everything underneath the sun. I'm like, okay, we know we're in the pandemic now.
Yep.
But yeah, I totally feel you on that. So that's great. It seems like everything is starting to pick up. You got bookings to your little cottage. You got your virtual tastings happening. Things are slowly but surely happening, in a positive light for you. What is it like? I think the one thing that I always think about, because how I started this whole show and this whole platform was celebrating International Women's Month. And what is it like being a woman in the industry right now with everything that's going on?
I mean, I would say it's actually pretty awesome because it's, people are finally paying attention to you and getting a lot more recognition, which is kind of weird to accept after you're used to not really having any recognition. And like I mentioned, my husband makes wine too. And so like, going for grants and stuff like that, or, partnering up with people, he's like, dude, it sucks to be a white male right now. And I get it, but it's pretty awesome because I think as women have learned to just adapt and go with whatever needs to happen just to get the job done. So it's pretty cool to actually finally have real conversations where you're not feeling like you're being judged just for your gender. When I first started, I was by far the youngest in the industry in Sonoma County. And not only that, I was also a female. So you could tell that even though everyone's super welcoming and brought me under their wing, that they definitely were thinking, oh, she's, daddy's little girl, super rich, not going to last. They're just going to hire everybody. And I knew that wasn't the case for our personal situation. So I really kind of use that as motivation to prove them wrong, that I'm like, yeah, I'm 23. I don't know anything about wine. I don't even know anything about this coast. I couldn't tell you, like, I was so ignorant. I couldn't tell you the difference between where Oregon or Washington was on top of California. Like, I literally am embarrassed to admit that, but it's East Coast. And
right.
and how young and naive, and at 23, recently graduated, you're like, oh yeah, I know everything, but you really don't know anything. And you're still trying to figure out who you are. And I'm seeing these people like, kind of judge me without verbally judging me. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to prove you wrong. I'm going to learn as much as I possibly can to really, walk the talk or talk the walk or whatever the saying is. My dyslexia sometimes gets me. And so I use that as motivation. And I'm fortunate that I grew up a tomboy. I mean, most of my friends were guys. So I have never really been easily offended or let any of the stuff that they say or people in general say affect me. I'm also fortunate that I grew up in a pretty 99.9% white community as the only fluent speaker in my high school of 2,500 kids. So I think I kind of was already prepped for not taking no as an answer.
Right.
And my parents, I have big shoes to fill. Both my dad and my grandfather made big names for themselves. And I knew that I had big shoes to fill and I had to make my own pave my own way in my own right. So I think all those factors kind of played into me being told that's crazy idea and me being like, okay, I'm going to prove you wrong or show you that it's okay to think outside the box. But It is pretty cool now to go around and get recognized and actually have better conversations because of it. Before it was kind of surface talk and kind of pleasant, and now it's like, oh, okay, no, like you've been in the industry for a while. You obviously have a good palate based on what your wines, showcase. It's like, all right, let's have a real conversation. What are you doing different? Why aren't you scared of doing this? Like, what happens if you run into this? And honestly, I will tell you, I still don't know a lot of the science. Like, I still don't know a lot of the terms, that I should know as for people that do study and go to UC Davis or have, the background in it, but the science background in it. But I think all of that has kind of helped me, and it's super fun right now. I think it's great. I'm happy to be here and be a part of it and be part of the positive change and conversation that's happening towards women in not only wine, but also in science and math and a bunch of other industries as well.
Absolutely. Movement is happening.
Yeah.
There's a movement going on, and it's great. And you totally remind me, I come from a family of 6, and I have one sister, and she was a total tomboy. She's kind of like right in the middle of everybody. And the way you were talking about everything right now, and just your drive and your passion for what you do, like you're not going to take anybody, telling you that you cannot do it. I'm going to do it, and I'm going to prove them wrong. That just is totally what my sister always. And I'm the youngest, and so she used to tell me those things to me when I was this puny little kid. I separated from them from like 9 years to my next sibling, and so she'd always tell me, don't let anybody tell you that you cannot do this. Mm-hmm. And she has this fight, and that's what I see in you. You have that fire, and that's what's going to continue to make your wines very successful, like the way they are.
Thank you.
I cannot say enough, and I'm so happy that and so glad that I got to share this time, with you out of your crazy schedule. So So I definitely appreciate that. I really appreciate that.
Yeah, of course. No, I'm happy to help. I mean, I was telling someone earlier right before I jumped on with you. I'm like, I like supporting small as well. Like, people have given me opportunities to get my name out there, and any way that, yes, this is marketing for me too, but it's also helping you with what you're doing and your business that you're achieving. You're striving for, and any way that we can help each other out. I think that's what the industry is about, and what unfortunately a lot of other industries kind of lack is that we are not competing. We just genuinely have a huge passion for wine, and we just can't wait to share it with everybody. So I'm honored and happy to be here with everybody, especially the fact that I just did something for the first time. I mean, this Facebook or Instagram live thing, like.
Bravo! I love it. I love it. Well, hey, if your dad just threw you out in the fire and said go for it, this is a small little thing right here for you to join
Oh,
me on
wait until I tell my
Instagram.
dad that I did an Instagram live interview, and he's gonna be like, "What does that mean?"
That is so great. I love that. I know that we're now getting close to the end of our time and how time flies. But again, I can't say it enough. Thank you so much for your time, for your support. I think I've just been so, I've been so fortunately blessed to have met the people that I have throughout these last few months in my vision of sharing all these voices that is creating more community, more diversity. It's creating more opportunity out there for everyone. So thank you for being a part of that. It's so awesome that we got to sit down and I always say this to everybody too. I don't feel like we're acquaintances. I feel like we're friends, and I think we got to stay in touch. We got to keep in touch,
Absolutely,
and continue to support one another. And I got to definitely tell you how this wine drinks when I think I'm going to cry when I drink it. But I always like to end with one big question, one final question, and it's the $5,000 question. And with what you've been through, especially these last 10 years, creating and doing something so monumental, what kind of advice would you give to these people that are beginning their journey or in the middle of their journey or at the end of their journey, and they don't even know if there'll be a success, or they don't even know if they should do it? Like you were telling your dad, like, I don't want to bankrupt you. I don't know if I can do this. And he's just like, no, you're going to do it. So what kind of advice would you give them?
I would totally say be open to opportunities. Don't be scared to fail. I think those were the biggest things for me, because I mean, obviously, bankrupting my dad would be a huge failure, but within that big picture, there's still little failures. There's still little opportunities that pop up in here and there, and that you want to take hold. And if they work, great. If not, all right, let's try something different. And so those are kind of like the failures that I'm talking about. Definitely don't take in criticism. Listen to everybody around you. I mean, I honestly, when I moved out here, I didn't say anything. I literally listened to every winemaker, every grower, every farmhand. I mean, everybody in the industry, from tasting room staff, like literally from all the vineyard workers all the way to the bottling line, to every winemaker I came across, every tasting room staff, every wine tour driver. I just listened and I asked questions, and I learned from them. I literally just, you cannot get enough information from what you're trying to do, or that's in everyday business. That's your own personal, like if you work a 9 to 5, or if you're going off on your own with your business. Yes, it sucks at times. Yes, it's long hours, but it's definitely, the fruit of your labor is definitely more rewarding. And I would say that I could not go back to corporate life. I mean, I barely did corporate life, and I don't think I could ever do that. I would still find a way to be in the wine industry. I would still find a way to be supporting small business. It's a lot more rewarding, and just don't let people bother you. I mean, people will say things and just, pass them off as ignorant and move on, like it's just, if you start focusing on all of the negativity and all of the criticism, listen to it and take action and learn from it, but don't let that pull you down or affect you or keep you from moving forward. So I would say kind of all of that, because I think that's what's helped me. I mean, I definitely got criticism. I definitely was told it wasn't going to work. And I was able to prove them wrong in the long run. So I would say those are definitely the most important aspects.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well said. I love it. I love it. And where can we find your wines?
So on the website, they're all on there. Like I said, the wines are a good representation of the snapshot of that year in that vineyard. If you have any questions, my business line is my cell phone. You can always call me, text me, email me. I have the worst cell reception, so text or email is always best. Just because as I'm walking through the vineyard or at the winery or driving around running errands, it'll connect when I can. So the text message will come through a lot faster than a voicemail. And same with email. But you can always go on my website for all the wines. If you have any questions, happy to coach you through them. I do have the dry muscat available. I just ran out of labels. So if you want that, shoot over a message and let me know. If you want to come and stay, if you're visiting Sonoma County, Corey, come visit. That cottage is great. It's an old milk barn converted into like a super nice rental. So it's got all the modern amenities that you're looking for a nice, relaxing getaway, but still kind of rustic and charming and true to ag. So I encourage everyone to come and stay with us. And if there's any fun activities happening in the vineyard or winery, you're always, welcome to be a part of it too and get your hands dirty. So just let me know.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I'd love to come down and visit now that all my family is down in Cali. So I definitely want to come and make a visit soon. But thanks again for everything. Cecilia, I can't say enough. Great family story. I love the story.
Thank you. Thanks.
And you can find a lot of that story on the website as well. That's connected with her Instagram. And I was going to ask you, since you were talking about messaging, could they reach you by Messenger?
Yes.
Messenger on Instagram too?
Yes.
Okay.
So I have one employee. So you're either going to be talking to me or Meredith. I don't have the notifications turned on. So if I don't respond right away, if you want to right away answer, text me. That's the best way. But otherwise, I'll check my notifications once in a while and make sure to get back to you. And it's either going to be me or Meredith talking to you. And she's an extension of me. I've been very fortunate to find somebody that is probably more on top of things than I am, but just equally as, fun to chat and get to know and stuff like that. But
yeah, and thank you so much for being a part of this. Don't forget, if you can stop by on our summer bash on May 28th. I know everybody's going to be out and about, but even if you're to just stop in just for a few minutes just to say hello, I'd love for you to come back and just do that.
Absolutely.
And like I said, I definitely appreciate you and what you do for the community of wine and winemaking.
Thank you.
Keep on trucking. Your wines are awesome. I can't wait to dig into this Pinot.
Thank you.
But until next time, we got to say a nice cheers, send off.
Cheers.
All right.
Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye. All right. What an amazing conversation with Cecilia Enriquez from the Enriquez Winery in Sonoma County. I can't tell you enough about this beautiful brisa. This is a combination of Chardonnay, Muscat, and Sauvignon Blanc, all still, 14.5 in body. This thing will not just drink well as a patio pounder, but it'll also drink well with a big dish, since the body and volume are high. Her Pinot Noir, I can't wait to try. Also 14.9, 2013, I can't wait. Thank you so much for Cecilia for being a part of this, for allowing me to try your wines, to be a part of this vision, to be a part of my vision. We got to support one another. That's what it's all about. It's about community. And I can't say it enough. If we create opportunity, it's going to create diversity in the industry. That's what we need to do. If we create opportunity, it's going to create diversity in the industry. We got to help each other out, unify, create support, be a support system for one another. This is the time to do it. Just because things are opening up doesn't mean we can let our foot off the gas. Remember, we got to still be respectful to each other. And I know everybody, if you haven't gotten it yet, get your vaccine, wear your mask, be respectful, be kind. This is the time to do it. And thank you all for your support. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram, see the latest lineups. We have 2 more weeks left. until our summer bash. I hope you can join us then. But until next time, stay well, stay safe, and cheers.